How do you start your morning? John Holmes was a porn star in the 70s. How do you think he started his morning?
Good morning, Sins TV.
Whey protein, peanut butter, chocolate almond milk.
I'm gonna drink my smoothie.
A protein shake? What kind of lame morning routine is that? Sleep didn't exist for John Holmes. Before being caught up in the biggest murder trial in porno history, John Holmes spent his mornings freebasing cocaine and running from drug dealers, both in real life and as his deadly alter ego, Johnny Wad. Protein shakes. Okay, so before we go any further, I just need to clarify something here. John Holmes, he never actually killed anyone. And I know, on this channel, I've been covering serial killers for the most part here, but I do plan on covering all sorts of twisted criminal cases as we go. And, a coke-fueled porn star with a giant dick who winds up the centerpiece in a multiple murder trial, I think that fits the bill. So, let's get at it. John Holmes was born on August 8th, 1944 in the small town of Asheville, Ohio. His mother was a devout Southern Baptist who regularly took communion and attended church with her children. His stepfather, Edgar, was torn. While he hated communion, he fucking loved wine. It wasn't uncommon for him to come home drunk as fuck, stumble around the house, and vomit on his children, kind of like some sort of weird age-appropriate money shot for kids.
No, that's not appropriate.
With his mother's written permission at age 15, Holmes enlisted in the United States Army and was stationed in West Germany for 3 years.
Can I call you General Sweet Pants?
After an honorable discharge in '63, and years before he would be portrayed by Mark Wahlberg and Val Kilmer, he packed his bags and moved to Los Angeles. But even though he had big dreams, Holmes was left discouraged when he discovered that finding work in LA wasn't as easy as he thought. But luckily, big dreams weren't the only big thing Holmes had.
He doesn't have many options. He doesn't have many skills until he discovers that he can do something with his 13-inch penis.
Okay, for the Zoomers out here watching right now, he was kind of like the 70s version of Danny D.
Here's a tip for any guys that want to become a porn star. Try having a big cock.
Only sideburns and crippling drug addiction. And it all started with what the industry referred to as loops.
In 1970, sexually explicit films were illegal. These loops were shown secretly at bachelor parties and all-male stag events.
Overnight, Holmes took the then illegal underworld of the hardcore adult film industry by storm. Oh, but I forgot to mention, Holmes was married. Unfortunately, his wife, she had some concerns.
And I said, John, you're the male equivalent of a whore. And he said, well, you can't think of it that way. If I were a carpenter, this is my tool.
If I were a carpenter, this is my tool. Fuck. That analogy kind of makes sense. Anyways, where was I? Okay, yeah, right. Illegal porn. Okay, so porn was illegal back then, but in '72, something happened. Fuck flicks exploded onto the silver screen, not literally, with the release of Deep Throat.
When Deep Throat came out, middle-class couples lined up around the block.
In an instant, porn producers across America crawled out of their basements and seedy motel rooms to capitalize on the action. During the Great Porn Rush of '72, Holmes met director Bob Chin during an open casting session, but it wasn't love at first sight. Remember, Holmes was wearing pants when he showed up to the audition, and with his pants on, he wasn't anything special to look at.
Skinny, scrawny guy. He just was not attractive. I said, I don't think so.
But the moment John's cock hit the floor, Chin's jaw dropped, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing.
And I reconsidered.
In a flash, he ran across the room, tripping on John's dick in the process, grabbed a cocktail napkin and a pencil. After quickly scribbling down some notes, a legend was born.
John Holmes teams up with slimy porno director Bob Chin to bring Detective Johnny Wad to a disgusting illegal porno theater near you.
Pull up your dress, turn around, and spread your cheeks.
Love Harry Bush but too embarrassed to hit the slimy theaters? Then listen up, this deal is for you. Johnny Wad is just what the hot nurse ordered.
Mr. Wad. Johnny.
Movie buffs and chronic public masturbators agree that with Wad, there's something for everyone. Interesting characters.
My name is Johnny Wad. I'm a private detective.
Mystery and intrigue.
Give something that I want.
I cannot possibly imagine what I could have that you'd be interested in.
Romance.
Go to hell, motherfucker.
And action sequences that make the fight scenes in The Bourne Identity look like they were choreographed by a quadriplegic. But that's not all. Order now and you'll receive a free copy of Hot and Saucy Pizza Girls. When a popular fried chicken restaurant moves to town,
Pizza sucks.
the babes of a struggling pizzeria began selling more than pies to stay ahead of the competition.
I got a stovepipe right here in my pants. It's been waiting on you.
Sweet captive. Discover the highest ransom conceivable. The price of a debt unpaid.
I'd like to see your asshole too.
From total exploitation and perversion.
What the hell do you people want?
Anything and everything.
To moving and sensual love scenes. Watch as a sweet girl is transformed into a submissive love object by her captors. And the senator's daughter. After a serious car accident, a Secret Service agent undergoes an experimental surgery where he's fitted with a bionic eye, left arm, legs, and a 12-inch dick.
With a bionic penis.
His mission? To find and seduce the kidnapped teenage daughter of a powerful senator. So what are you waiting for? Dial 1-800-WAD-IN-MY-FACE now to get the biggest package you'll ever lay hands on. Shipped directly to your back door.
Okay, so this should come as a no-brainer, but Coke was super common on set in the 70s. No, you know what I mean.
When you work on a set and you look down below the camera and there'll be a mirror with Coke on it, and everyone come by and have a hit.
Even though it wasn't uncommon for girls to snort 10-inch lines of Coke off his dick between takes, Holmes didn't touch the stuff.
When I first worked with him, he wouldn't even smoke marijuana.
That didn't last long. Slowly but surely, he began smoking weed and drinking. Eventually, his wife gave him an ultimatum. Quit fucking thousands of girls, or I'm out of here. After thinking over what his wife said while he was balls deep in the middle of a 5-girl reverse gangbang, Holmes landed on a solution. Fuck it. Why not just have an affair with a teenage girl who understands that he's a carpenter?
Holmes took her to see a Johnny Wad flick.
Ooh, that sounds like a nice first date. Hey, Dawn, want to get some popcorn and sit in a dingy theater watching fat old men jerk off while I perform subpar karate and fuck on screen?
It's every girl's dream.
As the couple's cocaine use escalated, Dawn and John would go to Hollywood clubs to score drugs.
Remember this scene from Boogie Nights?
Why, you think I can't do it? No. Huh? Wait. No. You dare me? Huh? No, we don't dare you. Fucking dare!
Yeah, that was what Nash's place looked like on a slow Tuesday. Here's how Liberace's ex-lover Scott described the vibe over at Eddie Nash's place.
It was just a rotating door that never stopped. Money, drugs, heroin, cocaine. It was something like out of Scarface.
It was around this time that Nash and Holmes began freebasing coke. If you don't know what that is, it's what Richard Pryor was doing when he thought it would be a good idea to douse himself in 151 proof rum and set himself on fire.
Just like that!
Eventually, Nash became a recluse and never left his house. But Holmes had plenty of women to fuck and couldn't afford to remain locked indoors. So he developed a mobile approach to his freebasing.
You know, when you have a little briefcase that you carry everywhere with you, with your freebase pipes, you know, you're in it pretty seriously.
It finally caught up with them, and soon he wasn't able to maintain an erection. With his career on hold, he had to find new ways of making money to support his habit.
I used to suck dick for coke. I seen them.
If only there were something of more value that he could sell.
John became so desperate he sold Dawn to Nash.
Yeah. He became so doped up out of his mind that even Eddie Nash decided he was too much of a liability and cut ties with him. With Nash now out of the picture, Holmes had to find a new supplier. His search would lead him directly to 8763 Wonderland Avenue. The apartment was occupied by Joy Miller, a rich woman turned heroin junkie, and a gang of strung-out criminals who would rob anyone at the drop of a hat for their next fix. Now you would think that the biggest porn star in LA would have no trouble fitting in, but Holmes soon found that gaining the trust of the gang wasn't as easy as he thought.
They're basically think he's a joke, and they're making fun of him, and they're, making him whip out his penis, as a novelty.
But after zipping up his pants in humiliation, Holmes quickly roused the gang's interest when he told them that Eddie Nash had a safe in his bedroom filled with thousands of dollars in cash and enough coke to kill Tony Montana 1,000,000 times over. On June 28, 1981, Holmes managed to smooth things over with Nash and showed up at his place to score some coke. After freebasing and partying with Nash for the entire night, Holmes left. But before doing so, he left one of the sliding doors unlocked. At 8 a.m. the next morning, the gang arrived at Nash's place, entering through that unlocked door. They were in and out. Within 20 minutes, they were back at Wonderland Avenue. After untying themselves, Nash was immediately like, "Where's that little fucker with the big dick? Find him and bring him here." Naturally, Liberace's ex-lover was freebasing at Nash's when Holmes was brought in, kicking and screaming.
Nash had a violent temper. He was screaming. He was threatening to kill John. He was threatening to kill every member of his family. You could actually hear him slamming them up against the walls.
A team of henchmen loaded Holmes into their car. Destination, 8763 Wonderland Avenue. At 4 a.m., John punched in a security code, rang the buzzer, and entered the property, followed by the 3 henchmen.
As the killers moved through the house, they left in their wake a river of blood. Neighbors later reported hearing screams, but they chalked up the noise to normal drug-dealing activities.
And 12 hours later, after the assault, the crime was reported to the police. With the police breathing down his neck and a crew of murderers on his trail, Holmes and his girlfriend, the one that he previously sold into sexual slavery for a bump of coke, got the fuck out of Dodge. Now, the cops really wanted Holmes. They issued a warrant considering him armed and drug-crazed. But where the fuck was he? Holmes and Don made their way to Miami, hitting all the tourist destinations along the way. And for Don, it was like a dream come true, until the instant John got his hands on a crack pipe.
Pretty soon he was making suggestions about, if a girl was to walk on the beach, she could probably make some money. I refused, and he ended up beating the crap out of me.
Shortly after, Holmes was arrested in Miami and returned to Los Angeles, where he was faced with a tough choice. Inform on Eddie Nash or be charged with murder. Holmes took option 2 and was charged with murder. While in jail, he was treated like a celebrity. Even his psychologist wanted to blow him.
I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I should be excited to see this porn star, but he was a celebrity, and it was kind of a fun idea.
Holmes claimed that he was only present at the murders because he feared for his life. And even though he was intrinsically linked to the killings, he got off scot-free. After narrowly escaping a murder charge by the skin of his dick, Holmes wasted no time getting back to what he did best. Fucking.
Welcome back to Hail Hail, the King is alive. Misty Dawn on the set of Marathon in San Francisco says, "I can't wait to get that man up my ass."
But being the maverick that he was, Holmes was always looking to break down barriers.
He made a feature-length gay sex movie.
But then something happened that would change his life forever.
July 1986, Holmes was diagnosed with AIDS.
So, with porn out of the question, John became an activist and began raising awareness about the dangers of unprotected... Wait.
But he didn't let the disease stop his work.
Sorry. He just moved to Italy, where no one knew about his positive status and continued having unprotected sex. After learning about John's diagnosis, Detective John Lang hoped that Holmes, with death looming over his head, would finally come clean about his involvement in the Wonderland murders.
Never got a straight answer out of him. It was all crap right up to the moment he died.
And that was the end of a legend. On March 13th, 1988, at age 43, John Holmes died from AIDS-related complications. So, what do you think? Should Steven Spielberg direct a reboot of Dickman and Throbbin'? If so, who would you like to see cast as the leading actors? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to murder that subscribe button and click that notification bell because I've got new content dropping all the time. And if you just can't get enough, you can head over and follow on Instagram and TikTok. Links in the description below. New killer content all the time.